All right, welcome back, everyone. We're excited to be here with you again today for another discussion on our Rise Up. If you are new to Rise Up, it is a new series that our club has put on for our female athletes. And really, it's just a place where our female athletes can come, feel respected, heard, listened to, and really feel like they have a place where they belong and where they can voice their opinions. And we're just wanting to build a community. So that is what we have been up to for the past few months, and we're excited to share it with you. So I have Leanne with me today, and she has been working really hard with me to get this series up and running, and has been just a wonderful person to have by my side through all of this. And yeah, so Leanne, if you want to do a little welcome introduction.
Well, thank you. That was so generous. And I appreciate your comments, Carly. And it's such a pleasure to be here working with you out of my great respect for you and my great respect for what you're doing. So for those of you who don't know me and possibly know Coach Dave McCarthy at the club, he is my husband. And so I kind of got drawn into these conversations simply because it is something that I live for, making space for women and for girls to safely express their voice. So thank you, Carly, for taking me on this journey with you. It's going to be one of environment, that is for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it, and just seeing what direction it goes. I feel like there's a lot of different directions that we can take this, and yeah, it's an exciting moment. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just going to add simply that from what we've discovered so far with our first live call with the girls in the club, with the female athletes at Scottish United, and then with our first Rise Up roundtable a couple weeks ago, and then we get a follow-up call with the coaches this week. And the one thing that keeps echoing through each of these conversations is simply how needed it is, and how much we're looking for more female content and female leadership, and how powerful that relationship is. And so I would like to invite you to share actually some of those comments that we learned from the young player, the young female players on that first live Rise Up call.
Yeah, so I think there were two main themes that kind of kept coming up throughout that call. And the first one was simply how players want to be coached, how they want to be talked to. A lot of them mentioned that they don't want to be yelled at, which you would think would be obvious, but this has been, I feel like this has been something that, you know, we've been coached in this certain way for a long time, or at least a lot of us have in the past. So it might be a habit that will take some time to break, but it came through loud and clear that our female athletes want to be talked to, they want to be encouraged, they want constructive feedback, positive feedback, honest feedback. They're open to all of those things, but they do not want to be yelled at. And yeah, time and time again, it was just unanimous. There's so many girls that mentioned that, and clearly it's something that we passed on to our coaches, and it's something that we all need to work on and realize that this is a real issue that needs to be addressed in order for our female athletes to really enjoy their soccer experience.
Yeah. And that was really a message that came from all ages too. So on this call, there were 140 girls, and the youngest was 6 and the oldest was 18?
Yeah.
Or 17. So there's quite an age span. And yes, that did come out over and over again repeatedly in different ways. And some of the girls for example, they articulated so well that, you know, life is stressful enough. They have lots of things going on. There's lots of stresses in their lives outside of soccer, that they really want to come and be on the field with their friends in a safe space where they're not going to feel anxiety or humiliation or added stress to, you know, what they're already dealing with in their lives. And how another comment was that when they get yelled at on the field, the result is actually the opposite of what the coach was probably intending to do with the yelling. So whatever motivation that was communicated through yelling, but it had the opposite effect. It has the girls shut down. So it's not productive at all. And so that's something that, you know, as coaches and as a club and as adults and as, you know, just role models in the girls' lives, to really know how crucial it is to speak to them in a constructive way.
Yeah, I know I can definitely relate to that through my playing career. I definitely had a lot of coaches that kind of took that more authoritarian or, you know, almost dictator-like stance. And the girls kept mentioning in this call that they want to feel like they can make a mistake, like it's okay to make a mistake. And I remember when I was playing, there were so many times where I was terrified to make a mistake because I knew I'd be yelled at, and I'd be yelled at in front of everyone. And I think that's another important point is, how are we giving feedback? When are we giving feedback? Where are we giving feedback? So, you know, girls, they do want feedback, but maybe they don't want it in front of everyone, positive or negative. Maybe they want, you know, at the end of practice or before practice, can you just take them to the side and talk to them, have a conversation with them? Because I feel like, you know, we need to coach with more compassion, more empathy. And like you said, we don't know what's going on in their lives. So, you know, yelling at them on a particular day might just be like, you know what, I've had enough. Whereas on another day, it might be okay, but we just don't know what they're going through, how their day is going, unless we talk to them and really get to know them as a person. We need to recognize that. And I think, you know, it's easier said than done. We're used to doing things in a certain way. But I think it is time that we become a little more aware of what's going on and what the need is. Because these girls, like I said, they're telling us, and it's very, very obvious what they need. So yeah, it's time. This is why we're doing this. It would be pointless if, you know, you and I did this series and we learned all these things, but we never shared them. So the whole point is, hey, can this reach as many coaches, as many managers, as many parents as possible, so they know or have a better idea of, you know what, this is what my daughter is actually asking for.
Yeah. You know, and Carly, I think it's really important to recognize too, that it's not every coach that yells, and it's like you had mentioned before, it's not every time the voice is raised that there's a negative impact. But you do see, and I grew up as a soccer player also, and I've had similar experiences to what you described, and coaches that I felt absolutely humiliated me, and it really made me want to quit the sport. And I didn't because of other reasons and the social aspect, and I loved playing, but it was a powerful negative influence. And I think I've seen coaches coaching young kids absolutely losing their mind, like screaming and throwing things and insulting the referee. And it really creates a culture of abuse to be perfectly honest. And again, I want to be very clear that not everyone is contributing to that, but certainly there's almost like a blanket acceptance of behavior in the name of sport that we wouldn't accept in other areas of our lives. Like there are some coaches that I've seen or heard from fields away. And I think, you know, if a teacher was talking to a young child that way, they would be on the news and they would be fired like by 6 a.m. the next morning. You know what I'm saying? It's just this old school way of sport leadership. And it's not okay. And I think that we need to identify that and recognize like how it's been integrated into our lives, whether as a recipient of it, maybe we found ourselves doing it, but just really getting honest with ourselves and being self-aware to recognize, like, I'm not okay with that. This is what it looks like, but I'm not okay with that anymore. So how are we going to move forward? Because it's all about the movement forward, the evolution and the progress, right?
Well, that's the thing. We're only human. So we need to recognize that, yeah, like it's not going to be perfect. We're going to go back into our old ways at times, and that's okay, as long as, like you say, you're self-aware and can realize, maybe, you know, that wasn't the best way that I could have dealt with that situation, or, you know, maybe I raised my voice a little too much in that situation or got a little too caught up in the game. That's fine. It's going to happen. It's just, okay, recognize it, and next time, can I do better? Like I've definitely been guilty of this too. There's times I get caught up in a game and not necessarily is it with my team, but maybe it's with the ref, or maybe it's, you know, something like that. And yeah, you have to realize, like, take a step back and realize why are we here? What are we doing here? Like, what's the point of this? Is the point to win every single game? No. You know, is the point to, you know, teach these girls the proper lessons that they need for the rest of their life, the proper skills? Yes. So it's like, we just, again, need to gain some perspective and realize why we're doing this. And yeah, it's just super interesting to hear all of their feedback.
Well, you know what? And okay, so just to hammer this in a little bit more, but, you know, I hear some people say, well, this is how I was taught to coach soccer or to learn soccer. This is what learning soccer looks like, development in soccer looks like. And maybe that was the case, you know, like 30 years ago, in a very almost like fear-based push focused leadership that was based on force, like the demanding and the controlling, and you do what, as I say, because I'm the adult, or I'm the superior, or I'm the leader. And the leadership style, and things always evolve, things always change. And so the leadership style that we're kind of moving into is more of a leadership based on honor, and leadership based on collaboration, and leadership based on respect and listening, and really seeing the person that we're interacting with, whoever it might be on the field or on the bench or on the training pitch. And you said something, I think it was with the coaches meeting on Monday, and you had said that you're really impacted by the awareness of what kind of coach you want to be, so that, you know, what kind of coach you want to be remembered as, I think is kind of how it went. Can you maybe elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, yeah, I think it's just like the legacy you want to leave. And do you want to be remembered by your players as like someone that, like, oh my gosh, that coach was so much fun. I really look forward to going to every training session, every game. I love my teammates because they created an atmosphere where, you know, we got to do other activities other than soccer, and we really got to know each other. I have a lot of coaches like that too, that had a really big impact on my life and left a really positive, legacy. And I think if we think like that, like, hey, in 10, 20, 30 years, you know, when Kevin talks about this a lot, he's been to so many of his players' weddings because they had he had that much of an impact on their life that when it came back time to those like really big moments, he was there. And that's the kind of coach I want to be. And I think that's the kind of coach that we should all strive to be, is just someone that, yeah, the kids, I think Dave said this, like if you see them in a grocery store, they're not going to go hide in the other aisle. They're going to come up and say hi. You know, we don't want to be a coach that they're terrified of seeing.
Yeah. So what does that look like? If an athlete thinks about Coach Carly in 10 years or 20 years at whatever stage of their life, how would you like for them to answer this sentence? My Coach Carly made me feel.
I would say respected is hopefully one of them. Seen, like I hope they know that like I care about them as a person, not just a player, and they're not just there for like, you know, my ego, oh, let's go win a bunch of games and I'm gonna use you to do that. Like I want them to see me as someone that they trust, that they can confide in. You know, someone that just is really there for them on the field, off the field, you know, anything that they're going through. That's like the main thing. I just want them to know like I care about them as a person. And I hope that gets through. That's kind of always been, you know, my goal. I want them to have an awesome soccer experience and just like look back with only fond memories. So I'll let you know in 10 years if I get that response.
I suspect that they'll come up and say hi to you at the grocery store.
If at least that happens, then I'll be happy. And then I guess we can
so let me ask you another thing.
Oh, all right. Put me on the spot.
I think I'm free. Yeah, so my next question for you is, what does that look like? Like, just, you don't have to give me the big picture, but what might one thing that you do, because I see you as a very self-aware person, as a very self-aware coach. So what might be one thing that you do for your athletes to create that respect, that, you know, when they think of you, they go, Coach Carly made me feel respected. They made me feel heard and important.
I think something simple. This is more so just to like, I think build a relationship and build trust, is just getting to know them. So when they come in, hey, so-and-so, how's it going? How was your day? How was school? Just like a little more than, okay, let's get warmed up, or, you know, like let them have time, one, to socialize together. And then like, I want to know, I think especially like the pandemic has taught me this, and I think has given me more of a chance to do this, is we've obviously done a lot of Zoom type sessions and done a lot of different games and like scavenger hunts and things like that. And I think you learn more about them in that aspect. We just had more time to know each other. We'd play, you know, games where like categories where you'd see like, hey, you know, their answers are kind of like my answers, or, you know, and we'd talk about things where I think when you're busy and you're kind of, you know, running from practice to game to, and they have school and everyone's so busy, you lose that a bit. So I think it's been a blessing in disguise. But when you're actually on the field, I would just say for the respect part, just make sure, you know, again, the feedback that you're giving, like I'm not going to single someone out and be like, why did you do this? Or, you know, like in a negative way. Mm-hmm. And like, you have to build that trust that they know that they can, you know, make mistakes, you know, do things a little bit wrong, and that it's not the end of the world. That they're like, you know what, coach respects me, she trusts me, you know, she believes in me. You want to build their confidence in that way. And I think just teaching them like what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. Like, I don't stand for bullying. I don't stand for them being disrespectful to each other. So I think kind of setting those boundaries, they know, you know, it's not okay for me to talk to this player like this. It's not okay for me to talk to my siblings like this, my parents like this. Like for me, it's bigger picture than just, okay, I'm going to respect my coach. No, you should respect everyone, and you should be a good community member. So, yeah, I feel like that was a long-winded answer, but yeah, that's how I feel.
It's so important, though. I'm glad that you gave the answer as full as you did, because I think it's so important, because the next layer of that is when you respect them and they are heard and they feel like they're important and valued to you, then they recognize their own value, their own importance. And then they kind of, you know, they grow up through and into the lives that they're going to go on living, feeling good about themselves and feeling whole and complete and feeling valuable. And those are like really significant things that sport, and team sport specifically, offers young athletes, all athletes, and especially female athletes. So you mentioned something also a bit early on in that answer about the social aspect and providing that social aspect for girls. And so I want to revisit that Rise Up call that we had with the girls, because that's the second theme that came out, doesn't it?
Yeah, that one came out a lot as well. So that one is pretty much that they really emphasized how important their teammates were, the social aspect of the game, you know, that like team building side of things. And I wasn't surprised for that one, actually, because you see it all the time in female sport. Like I feel like our relationships hold a high importance to us in all areas of our lives, and it's no different in sport. So I just feel like at least showed us that it's important that they have time to socialize, to get to know each other. It's important that I feel like we provide an experience that isn't just soccer, that it's more than soccer.
I think for girls, it has to be more than soccer too, right?
It's the only way, in my opinion, if you're going to have a really successful team, there has to be those friendships. They have to trust each other. They have to believe in each other. They have to play for each other. It's so important. I can't remember who said it. I think it was Dave again. We have a lot of conversations. He said, like,
okay, some anonymous person.
I know, right? I guess he has a lot of words of wisdom. He said if two guys and they hate each other off the field and then they go on the field, it doesn't matter. Once they cross that line, they'll play for each other. They just want to win. Yeah. But if it's two females and they don't like each other off the field, or something's going on, they're fighting, they go cross that line on the field, it doesn't matter. They're not going to play for each other. There's tension there, and that's an issue. They're not going to be like a cohesive unit at all. And that's why it's so important that, you know, your female teams have those bonds. They have to be friends off the field. And there's so many ways that we can provide that for them, or at least like encourage it, you know, organize different opportunities for them that can help them build those relationships, because at least on the female side, those relationships can last a lifetime. And I don't know, I think that's just as amazing as the game itself, is like you get to have these relationships that, you know, like when you're 50, 60 years old, you might still have them.
Yeah, and when we think about female athletes, and I mean, you've got the numbers for the male athletes, and then you've got the numbers for the female athletes. And so we don't have nearly as many female soccer players at Scottish right now compared to the males, right?
Yeah.
So really, I think that we would like to do whatever we can, knowing as much as we can know, to retain those athletes. And so if that social aspect that is so important will have them at the end of the season looking forward to the next season instead of questioning, well, do I really belong here? That's a really powerful motivator.
For sure, 100%. I feel like for retention, it often drops off around 13, 14. You know, girls just get involved in other things and are less interested in sports. But like you said, if there's that social aspect to it, and if all of their friends are on their team, they're going to keep playing. Even if maybe they have a slight less interest in soccer, they'll still play because they love the atmosphere, they love being around their friends, and that might change again and they might enjoy it again. But I do think, you know, we want to retain as many players as we can, and this is one way to do it. And it's not, I don't think it's a hard way. I don't think it's very difficult.
No, it's quite natural, actually. But
Yeah,
then
you just
that
have to provide them. Pardon?
You know, not creating this leadership environment that honors competition. And of course, sport is going to be competitive. And when you're on the pitch, you know, you're competing. There's no question about that. But is the leadership style competitive, or is the leadership style collaborative? And that collaborative leadership style can really create that environment of social wellness for the girls.
Yeah, you don't want an environment that's like cutthroat on the female side, because for example, you could put like two players up against each other. Maybe they're the same position. They're fighting for like a start. Like, you don't, in my opinion, you don't do that on the female side. Like, it's not going to have a positive impact. One, they're probably just going to hate each other more if you do that, because they're fighting for the same position. Yet, if you want them to be more collaborative, you want them to be more supportive, all right, you need to create an environment. Yes, 100% it should be competitive, but you just have to be mindful of like the type of exercises that you're doing and the pairings that you're doing and things like that, because it can have a detrimental effect. Like, I've seen it in university where it is a lot more cutthroat, especially in the States. And it's very much so like you're on the bench and you're wishing that person, you know, would, oh, I hope she gets food poisoning or something. Like, it's crazy how cutthroat it gets. Whereas you want everyone, you want the people on the bench to be cheering on the people on the field and be authentic and, you know, true about it. Not to just be like, oh yeah, I hope you're doing, you know, good job, la la la. No, like, be authentic. And you can definitely create that, but again, it's just being mindful and aware. I think Abby Wambach mentioned that in her book.
I was just going to bring her up because that's the perfect example, right? Because she talks about leading from exactly where you are, and how I think it was the final game of her last World Cup, and she knew she wasn't going to be starting. And so she's on the bench making decisions for herself. Am I going to be mad about this? And she was mad. She said that she was mad about it. And her ego went through a process where she had to find a way to be on the bench and be okay with it. And she realized that she can lead from the bench as powerfully as she can lead from the field, because it's about creating the space and uplifting our teammates, the other people around us. And again, in sport, you know, you don't, especially in soccer, you don't win anything on your own. So really finding that ability to lead from exactly where you are.
It's about the choices you make.
Yeah. Well, and so that makes me think, because every time we talk about Abby Wambach, and because in the initial stages of talking about Rise Up, we both listened to that interview that she had, that podcast that you had brought to my attention for the first time with Brené Brown, and I listened to it and was absolutely blown away. And it's so relevant to what we're talking about today, specific to like old style of coaching and sport leadership, and this new style that is really worth embracing. So would you like to visit some of the, let's go back there again.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's such a good conversation. But like, let's talk about some of those old rules and then the new rules that she brings up, because it really impacted me.
Yeah, no, let's do it, definitely. So I have a few of them here. So the first one, so she goes by chapter. There's 8 chapters, 8 rules. So the first chapter is you were always the wolf. And the old rule is stay on the path. And the new rule is create your own path.
Mm-hmm. So staying on the path, that would look like being groomed to be a certain type of person, or being groomed to be a certain type of player or a certain type of anything. And creating your own path is really about knowing yourself and having that self-awareness to kind of decide for yourself, no, you know what, this is what feels good for me. I'm going in this direction.
Yeah, just really that self-belief and confidence to do what you really feel is right for you, I think. Yeah, I love these things.
Too, because we really are groomed in our society. And I know that I can speak for myself with this is, you know, I was the quintessential good girl until I wasn't anymore, you know what I mean? But but it was really clear to me what it took to be a good girl. And that was definitely not creating waves anywhere. And so that was a very small box that I allowed myself to be in. What I might encourage for our daughter now would be like, you know what? You make the path. You decide how you want to be. And that doesn't mean go around and, you know, make everyone else miserable. But really to honor yourself, right? It's so important to honor who you are, but first you have to discover who you are. So anyway, now I'm going off on a tangent. Bring us back, Carly. Do you know what's the second old rule?
All right, the second one. So the second chapter is be grateful and ambitious. The old rule is be grateful for what you have. And the new rule is be grateful for what you have and demand what you deserve.
Mm-hmm. That and, the ever powerful and. It's not or, is it?
Nope.
Yeah.
I love this. I just feel like, well, I think I like all of them. I haven't read them in a bit, but just reading them now, I feel like it's so often that I don't know, I feel like I resonate with this one personally, is that I'm often like, oh, be grateful. Like, be grateful for, you know, this opportunity, or be grateful for, you know, where I am in life. And 100% it's, you know, you should be grateful and realize the things that you do have. But I think at times we get complacent, or not even complacent, but just like,
that's a good word.
Like I have this, I should be happy, or I should be like, why do I want more? Or, you know, is it okay to ask for more? Or is it, does that seem like selfish, you know? And I think a lot of people could resonate with that as well. You just kind of, get comfortable of like, oh, well, I have all this, so like I'm good. But like, why are we not striving for more? Why are we not asking for more?
Yeah. Instead of settling, actively pursuing what lights us up. And for what it takes, for what we need in the journey of what it takes to, you know, light us up.
Well, they say so often that when it comes to like higher up positions, there are often women that are very qualified, but if you're not overqualified or 100% qualified, they don't apply, or they don't ask for that raise or anything like that. Yet there could be a man, same situation, but way less qualified, and they're like, no, I'm qualified, I can do that. let's go. Like, I'm going to ask for that. And it's like, why is there that, you know, that difference? Why is it that they're willing to take that risk and that they believe in themselves that much that they can do it? Whereas very often there's very qualified females that would rather just be like, no, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for what I have right now, and don't try and get to that next level. So I don't know.
It's a form of sacrifice too, isn't it? Sacrifice that turns into self-sabotage, really. And Abby Wambach says that by asking for or demanding what we deserve, and demand what you deserve, that's how we're going to get rid of those inequalities that still very much exist in our culture, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, number 3. So chapter 3 is lead from the bench. The old rule is wait for permission to lead. And the new rule is lead now from wherever you are.
Yeah. So this one we talked about a bit before. In this one, when she was talking about it, she asked some really awesome questions like, how can I contribute to others? You know, sometimes when we meet people, or if we're in relationships with people, or there are people around us, we kind of think first, like, what can I get from this person, from this relationship? But she's suggesting that when we're leading from where we are, we're asking, how can I contribute to someone else so that we all win together? Because it's going to take all winning together in order to create, you know, a life of real service and fulfillment and equality.
Yeah, and I think it's just realizing that we're all capable of leading. We don't need to be at a certain place or reach a certain height to be like, okay, now I can lead. Now I'm qualified to lead. It's like, no, we're all very capable of leading from wherever we are, regardless of, you know, anything, age or gender or socioeconomic stuff, like anything. We can all lead and we can all contribute in a positive way. We just have to decide to do that and not, again, wait till like, oh, someday I'm going to be a leader.
Mm-hmm. It's also about seeing the value in the people around you, you know, not being the one, but putting your ego aside. And she says you can't serve yourself and your team's success at the same time. Those are counterproductive. So, yeah, we become our best selves when we're working together and appreciating and celebrating the value in others.
Which again is, I think, is a new concept.
It is, isn't it? It's about collaboration versus competition, which we talked about before. So, okay, number 4.
Right. Number 4, chapter 4 is make failure your fuel. The old rule, failure means you're out of the game. New rule, failure means you're finally in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one's good.
I was talking about this one with Dave just a couple days ago. I was actually driving to go get groceries, and I had to pull over to the side of the road and call him and talk to him about failure and how important it is and how we should celebrate failures, because failure means that you're trying something new, and it's through trying something new that you grow. And so I think that growth is the point of being here. Why would we not want to grow personally and constantly becoming a better version of ourselves and a more, you know, aware version of ourselves? And if you're never trying anything new, or if you're saying, no, I've already got it all right, then you're kind of missing the bus of evolution and you kind of get left behind, right? So if you're not failing, you're taking yourself out.
I love that point that you actually pulled over to talk to Dave. That's so good. But isn't it's so true. I feel like we hold ourselves back so often because we're scared of failure. I know I do it, and I think, yeah, a lot of us do it, and this just like speaks to me. Like, you're only in the game if you're out there like trying things, failing, making mistakes. And I guess if we're preaching this, we should be preaching this to our players too. We should be preaching this to, you know, your children, like everyone, and celebrating it. When your player makes a mistake, why are we not like, yes, I love that you tried that. That's amazing. Yeah. You know, rather like give them that type of response. That'll change the game for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and they all strengthen us too, right? I was having a conversation with a group of really interesting, really empowered women yesterday, and we were talking about failure, and it's through breaking down that we break through. Because when we break and we crack and we're not perfect, then that's I think it's a Leonard Cohen song. That's how the light gets in, but that's also how the light gets out, right? We're more relatable when we've got cracks. And so if I've never failed at anything, what do I have to teach anyone either? So to really embrace that, because having tried and failed really makes you more relatable, and that, you know, what you have to share, what your value, you can transfer that to other people and share it with other people. We're getting really philosophical here, so let's move. Let's move on.
All right.
Number 5.
I had a good one for that. I'm going to keep going.
For failure?
For that last one, because it's just a new concept in coaching that often as coaches, we want to be perfect and we want to like have this, you know, facade of like, yeah, I have everything together and I know everything about the game and I'm here to teach you and I have all the answers. But the new idea of coaching and what we're learning, I'm taking the youth license right now, is that no, like, show your vulnerability, be like human. Like if you make a mistake or, you know, the exercise isn't perfect, you don't have to be like, oh no, just you guys are the ones that are doing it wrong. I know everything. Like it's okay for them to understand that you're not perfect and that you know, have failure as well. So yeah, that just like, I was like, light bulb went on.
That's so great.
Okay, now we'll move on.
I'm glad you shared that.
So the next one, chapter 5, champion each other. Old rule, be against each other. New rule, be for each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's simple.
Competitive versus collaboration, right?
Yeah, exactly. Chapter 6, demand the ball. Old rule, play it safe, pass the ball. New rule, believe in yourself, demand the ball.
And follow through.
And follow through. Yeah, I think it's just the case where, you know, it's easy to pass on the responsibility. It's easy to be like, well, I don't want to take that shot because what if I miss? Like, I'm going to pass it. Or, you know, just it's easier that way. Mm-hmm. Yet, if you can get to a point where you have that confidence and you believe in yourself and you demand the ball, mm-hmm. That's exciting. I would love to coach a team where every player is demanding the ball and no one's hiding. Mm-hmm. And everyone's willing to have that like courage. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, courage is so powerful. And courage creates things on the field and off the field. Courage is a driver of all amazing things.
All of them.
All of the amazing things.
Chapter 7, bring it all. So old rule, lead with dominance, create followers. New rule, lead with humanity, cultivate leaders. I feel like so much of this relates to what we've already talked about.
Yeah.
You know, like a different way of leading. You don't need to be like, I'm up here, you're down here, and, you know, I know everything, you know nothing. Like, you have to follow me. I think, yeah, it's like, can we pull everyone up so we're all on an even playing field? And like, really, I think that's the whole point. Like, can we lead with people by our side rather than leading from the top?
Well, yeah. And like, I don't think any leader really wants to be, no good leader really wants to be the only one. Good leadership.
It's lonely.
Well, if you ask all the leadership gurus out there, John Maxwell and like all of them, they say true leaders build more leaders.
Yeah.
You know, Dave talks about this all the time, that transferable leadership. And, you know, those new leaders can very likely be the players on your team. And I think they should be too.
Yeah. And it's like, why would you not want, you know, the players that you're coaching to surpass what you did? Or why would you not want the coaches that you're mentoring to surpass and become a better coach than you? Because then you know you're really doing your job, rather than being like, oh no, I want to be, you know, I want to be known for, you know, being a great coach, so I can't have anyone near me. Like, we need to just switch that mindset.
Yeah, that's never quite how it turns out anyway. For those people, is it?
Not quite.
It doesn't quite work out like that. Okay, the last one that is in her book.
So chapter 8, find your pack. Old rule, you're on your own. New rule, you're not alone, you've got your pack. So again, it's just more enjoyable together.
Yeah, well, you know what? Humans are designed to be connected. Or we desire it. We're like, we need to be connected to other people. Who hasn't realized that, you know, through COVID? Even people who are introverts recognize that they need connection to some degree, you know? And if you're drawn to a team sport, chances are you're the kind of person who really wants to be connected with others. So when you work together, celebrate each other, lead and create leaders, and be vulnerable and appreciate the value in the people around you, it really creates a community. And honestly, that's one of the things that we're doing in Rise Up, right? That's a real priority for us, not just from a one team perspective, but for the club perspective, the whole club. And then, you know, the female athletes, seeing the other female athletes in the community of female players within Scottish. It's a big deal.
Well, yeah, through, like you said, through COVID and the pandemic, but also just through that first call we had, both of those have shown that that we have far more in common than we think. You know, everyone across the world has been dealing with this, and everyone has dealt with lockdowns, and everyone has dealt with, you know, Zoom meetings and Zoom friend hangouts and Zoom this and Zoom that. Like, we can all relate to that, and we can all relate to, you know, the hard times and the good times and the things we've learned. And same thing in the call. It's like, you realize how much they have in common once they're all together and they start talking. They start to realize, like, wow, like, it doesn't matter, you know, what team you're on, what age you are, like, we all share so many of these things in common. And I think that's something special, that, you know, if you get to be part of something like that, you know, it's something to really celebrate. And yeah. Anyways, I won't rant again.
I know, but that's just a testament of how passionate you are about what you're doing, and what a stand you are for your young female athletes, is that you can just like passionately go on about it. And we were talking today about what our next topic would be for the athletes on our March 7th call, right?
Yes.
Would you like to share that?
Okay.
It's gonna be awesome.
All right. So we're keeping it pretty simple, but we feel like it's just the right question. So why do you play? We want to know why they are playing, why they come to soccer, why they love it, what makes them excited, what brings them joy. Because the more we learn about that, the more we can give them that.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait for that conversation.
Me too. I'm really looking forward to it. You know, if it's anything like the last session, yeah, these girls they got so much to share and so much that they want us to know, and I really think they want to see the changes, and hopefully we can just, you know, help initiate that and implement those changes.
Yeah. Yeah, they're remarkable. They deserve it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I feel like, you know,
what a good conversation, Carly. Thank you.
No, it was really fun. Yeah, I always enjoy my conversations with you, and I'm looking forward to seeing kind of where we take Rise Up, or where these girls take Rise Up, and yeah, I'm just looking forward to the future and to continue to progress with this new series.
Yeah, it's exciting. There's lots of potential, lots of ideas brewing. So definitely. Anyway, thank you for watching this episode of Rise Up Roundtable, and we hope to see you on the next one.
Awesome. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.